Hello, I'm Todd Phillips, the editor of Canadian Auto Dealer. We're here today with Jeremy Anspach. He's the founder and CEO of PureCars. Jeremy, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, normally we might be having this conversation face-to-face in San Francisco or Vegas or somewhere for NADA, but we're doing it this way virtually. It's been a big change. So tell us, so far, you're one of the exhibitors at the NADA this year. Tell us about that whole experience, what it's been like preparing your team and setting up your virtual booth to be able to still communicate your message to dealers.
Well, similar to most NADAs, our focus is first and foremost to support our current customer base at the show, whether it's through education, whether it's through product offering, et cetera. This year being virtual, it's definitely a whole new experience. We're spending way less time on physical booth design and location of where we are. And it's really given us a good opportunity to focus more on what can we do for our customer to make sure they're always seeing kind of the best of the best from PureCars? How do we still try to have some face time with our clients that want to do performance reviews and those things, which has always been a big part of the show. And then, of course, dealers that are looking for services that we can help them with, how do we make sure they can easily see, just like they would at the show, how PureCars can help them thrive? And, a virtual show, we'll see how it goes. We're optimistic. I think one of the things is every year at NADA, regardless of where we're placed or the size of our booth, we've been very privileged to have a ton of foot traffic. And with that can be complications. You have limited stations, et cetera. So this year at the show, we have a tremendous amount of people virtually that will be able to assist those that want to learn more, and also our current customers that want to dive deeper. So I think for the dealer, those that are willing to be more patient, just like we are here on Zoom, they'll be able to actually experience the best of NADA without the waits, without the lines, and without the the feet that hurt, if you will, at the end of the day. And additionally, it will last longer. So we were asked to be a speaker this year at NADA. So Lauren Donaldson and I will be helping dealers understand their blind spots and how to overcome them and really flip the script for 2021. And, being virtual, we hope that more and more dealers will be able to attend more sessions because you're not time constrained. You can really cram in a lot more material. And I'm hopeful that this will really be a good format for this year. And next year, Todd, I'll be able to see you face to face, at the show.
And we'll have a chance to see how it all worked out. For sure. I mean, there are physical limitations, but so one of the things that you guys are doing is sort of a breakout session sort of on that. So tell us a bit about in that session, sort of on the marketing blind spots, I think is the title of it. I mean, yep. What would dealers learn, and those that can still register, because this video will, go out ahead of that. So why should they register? What are they going to learn?
Dealers are really going to leave the session with a few key things. First of all, they'll be able to readily identify common blind spots. And what I love about this session is oftentimes speakers talk about what they think or what they know. This is really just us looking at the thousands of dealerships we've had the privilege and honor of serving, and common traits we see that once solved, kind of what the best of the best do, and you see that amazing impact thereof. We're identifying those blind spots, whether it's rethinking how your ad budget is formed. Historically, dealers have always thought about this fixed ad budget, and maybe you have some variability between marketing channel, but there's tremendous bias. So removing that. We're looking at a new way of thinking about lifetime value, that customers are not created equally, in the sense that if you can attract more than one buyer for, say, a Silverado, the buyer that has a higher likelihood of servicing at your dealership, the buyer that has a higher likelihood of being a repeat customer, is obviously more valuable to anyone's business than the person 90 miles east that will buy the car and never see you again. So really flipping the script to focus on lifetime value. And we'll talk about several other great things, but fundamentally removing muscle memory, identifying these blind spots, and leaving with an action plan is highly valuable. So I'm excited to participate this year at the show.
One of the sayings I'm sure you're quite familiar with in the marketing and advertising world is 50% of my advertising is wasted. I just don't know which half. And maybe tell us a bit about your Pure Intelligence product that really helps, or your, concepts that you roll out with dealers that help them narrow down, actually properly assess which channels, which spends are actually giving them a return on their investment.
Sure. For us, we continue to see margin erosion across the industry. Now, 2020 was a unique year with supply being hindered. It actually created more gross opportunity. I think long term that will kind of come back to the old norm, if you will, as there's more competitive pressure. So the two common things every dealer must answer to be incredibly successful with their marketing is how much should I spend on which vehicles? And once that's identified, you then should hopefully be spending your ad budget without bias. And this is where Pure Intelligence does a really good job. And all of our software as a whole helps dealers understand those two key questions. How much should I be spending on which vehicles? And then let's go buy the media in the most efficient way with no bias. And what I mean by that is just because search performed exceptionally well a year ago, or just because television performed exceptionally well a year ago, doesn't mean that that will perform exactly the same way today. And we saw this in a ridiculously exaggerated way in March, April, and May of 2020 as the pandemic hit us all exceptionally hard with no real historical data to work off of. We've never had a pandemic to deal with. We've never seen the government shut down, areas for 8+ weeks, et cetera. So what do you do as a dealer? You remove bias. You look at the information in front of you. And if it's proven, understandable, reliable, and actionable, and ultimately executable, you win. And with that, Pure Intelligence really helps dealers understand what they should be doing right now to drive the lowest ad cost per unit sold.
Well, that's great. So we'll encourage dealers definitely to tune into your session and visit the booth. But I've got one more question for you. With the pandemic, it's such a disruptive, once in a lifetime, I hope, change in the industry and marketing patterns. So many dealers shifting to a digital retailing model, scrambling in many ways to change their marketing mix, whether that was radio, people aren't driving as much and all that sort of stuff. So tell us about, some shifts that you've seen during the pandemic that you think will persist once dealers have sort of maybe embrace some of these new digital channels, to help get people in their virtual doors.
So on a macro level, I would say two things: efficiency and easy. Dealers have become more efficient, whether it's through headcount reduction, whether it's through cutting media channels that are harder to track ROI, which has predominantly been on the traditional side. So being more efficient, ultimately doing more with less. We're seeing that as a trend that we believe is here to stay. And then on the second half of that, it's how do you maximize return? How do you continuously optimize for the lowest ad cost per unit sold? And if you can continue to have a competitive advantage by lowering your ad cost to unit sold, you then can reduce your sales price slightly, be even more competitive in the marketplace, and this sales flywheel spins faster and faster. And if you look at the best performers in any industry, whether it's an Amazon, whether it's a Carvana, whether it's a top public dealer group, or whether it's just that large store that captures market share in an area, you generally see them doing those two things really well. They know how to attract a customer very efficiently. And as a result, they can be more competitively priced. And the net result is this flywheel spins quickly and they continue to win.
Awesome, Jeremy. That's all we have for today, but thanks for the great overview. And I encourage people to drop by your virtual booth and drop in and check things out and go to your breakout session. And I wish you a successful NADA and beyond.
Thank you. NADA has been so successful for this industry. I'm hopeful dealers will do their best, get through this virtual year, and we'll get back to shaking hands next year. Thank you for having me.
I'm with you on that. Thanks for joining us. Signing off.
Thank you.